riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey. With me, as always, co-host extraordinaire, Shaggy to my Scooby, Timothy Richardson. Tim, how you doing?
I don't even know anymore, man.
What has left you so lost in these proverbial woods?
The musical stylings of Creed's Human Clay.
That's right. This week we are finally tackling the often requested Creed Human Clay, released September 28th, 1999. Tim, let's not waste a moment. Do you hate this album?
I think so.
Okay, that's a little softer than usual. I respect it.
I'm not 100% of the way there. I think I'm close, but I just can't say yet that I hate it.
I think that's fair. It's a good open mind to come into this show with.
What about you? Do you hate this?
I don't think so.
Really?
I'm going to do my very best to remain even-handed. Oftentimes, I start out saying I don't hate it, and then by the end, of course, you get me there. Boy, this is controversial. I think Creed might have gotten a bad deal here.
Now, that is going too far. That's inaccurate. Whether or not you hate them, Creed got the exact correct deal.
So you're willing to abide me not completely hating it, but you will not let me sit here today and defend them as an artist.
No.
Tim, is this the first time you've let Scott Stapp into your life?
This is a band that I've heard quite a bit simply by being in high school whenever these albums came out. But at the time, I might have liked this, except for a beautiful jackass at my high school named Steven.
Okay.
Steven fancied himself a bit of a 14-year-old Scott Stapp and would find any opportunity possible to play music. He had this shitty 3-piece high school band. They covered Creed songs. If there was ever a chance that I would have liked this, Steven really did me a solid and saved me from it. I remember that his band was playing in somebody's backyard. Their parents were out of town, and he would get really fucking, I don't know if it's nervous or what beforehand. And I remember his girlfriend saying to him, "Hey, Steven, just do your best. You don't have to be Creed." And even then, it struck me as an odd thing to say because Scott Stapp doesn't even want to be Creed. I really think I should send him a thank you card at some point.
Man, that is amazing. That is a low bar. They're good, man. Creed good. That's not a thing anyone's ever said.
I've still heard all of the singles probably 1,000 times because they had the perfect fortune to be a band in 1997 to 2001 when terrestrial radio was all we had. Plus, I've heard them in your car a fair number of times.
That last part's untrue.
What about you? Has Scott Stapp weaseled his way into your head before?
I definitely have been Creeded up via singles on the old terrestrial radio. Same deal. In high school, I remember for whatever reason, there were a couple jackasses in the old high school gymnasium while we'd be lifting weights that thought that they could get pumped up to Creed.
I get it.
I mean, unless they were just sitting there getting angrier and angrier in order to lift heavier things, then I don't get it. Because of the radio, I've heard at least Higher and Arms Wide Open no less than 468,000 times. Okay, before we get into this album, we like to always take a step back, look to the past. Tim, take us on that journey. How did a young boy named Scott meet up with other Christian-loving, God-fearing young men to create the abomination known as Creed?
Like all good things, Creed began in Florida, the state that gave us Pitbull, Limp Bizkit, Flo Rida, Matchbox 20, the guy that put together Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and the guy that ate that other guy's face. And honestly, we could probably end the history right there. I think that fully explains the majority of this. Vocalist Scott Stapp, SS for short.
Wait. I did a lot of, I didn't do any research, but I looked at the dossier put together by the boys in the lab. I didn't see an SS abbreviation anywhere. Is this a Timothy Richardson original?
It is. SS was friends with the guitarist Matt Tremonti at an Orlando high school, and then they met up again at Florida State, go Seminoles, and bonded over their mutual passion for bad music. But SS was the stepson of a Pentecostal minister, which I think those are the speaking in tongues, snake handling kind of Christians.
I don't know that the snakes are always involved.
Well, not always.
Oh, right, but there's definitely a flavor that handles snakes.
Sure, and I'm going to assume that's the case. I don't know if it is or not. But SS is definitely a true believer, as we will see. Creed officially formed in 1993 and then added Brian Marshall on bass and Scott Phillips on drums. Actually, that's not 100% true. Naked Toddler began in 1993.
That's right.
But apparently it was not well received, so they changed their name to Creed.
Believe it or not, folks, Naked Toddler was found to be somewhat off-putting by fans of the band.
Honestly, anytime you hear the name Creed for the rest of your life, think Naked Toddler. So Naked Toddler starts playing local venues around Tallahassee. They're discovered by a man named Jeff Hansen in 1996, and as far as I could tell, this is his only major band that he ever really picked up. They were playing in a music store at that time with a set list that consisted of a bunch of covers and 2 originals. Naked Toddler begins recording their debut. Initially, it was self-released and it sold about 6,000 copies, pretty much exclusively in the state of Florida. Then they get noticed by Wind Up Records after 14 other major labels passed on them. My Own Prison gets remixed to sort of a more radio-friendly sound, and it gets re-released. It would go on to become the highest-selling heavy metal record of 1998. It sold...
There's a lot wrong with that sentence.
Right. Excuse me, not heavy metal record, heavy music record. It would eventually go on to sell 6 million copies as of 2002. It spawned 4 singles that each reached number 1, and I believe they were the first band ever to do that on a debut record.
You know what? Let's pause there for just a moment, because I think that in my defense of Creed, excuse me, Naked Toddler, boy, I feel uncomfortable even saying that.
You'll warm to it, don't worry.
I hope not. This is a pivotal moment in this band's career. They get picked up by a major label, sorta, and they remix the album and give it, as you said, a more radio-friendly sound. And I would argue that had they come in contact with a skilled producer that could take what I think, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is a kernel of talent and fostered it, instead of moving it towards let's make a bunch of money and forget any sort of artistic integrity, we could be looking at a very different situation, a very different Naked Toddler. All right, continue. I just wanted to point that out because it's step 1 in where things started to go horribly awry for Creed.
Naked Toddler tours around a bit, and they record and release Human Clay fairly quickly after they get signed to a major label over late 1998 to 99, and it sells very well. Then in 2000, Brian Marshall decides he really loves alcohol, and he proceeds to go on numerous pro and anti-SS rants and some anti-Pearl Jam rants. The band tries to get him to go to rehab, but he refuses, and ultimately it's unclear. They did not leave on good terms.
No.
In 2001, Weathered is released. It also goes sextuple platinum and spends 8 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Top 200 chart, which is a record they share with the Beatles' One compilation.
2001 was a difficult year for America.
Because of Creed.
There were some other things that happened too, Tim, that were pretty tough.
All right, whatever. Naked Toddler tours for Weathered, but that mostly gets delayed. Scott Stapp gets into an auto accident and gets a concussion, and then he gets himself pretty addicted to pain meds and alcohol. A couple of fans would sue him after a concert because he was very drunk and put on a shitty show.
Yeah, he couldn't sing any of the songs, didn't know the lyrics, kept screaming, "I hate this band."
This eventually would lead to the first breakup in 2004, after they had done basically nothing as a band for at least a year. In 2004, they released a greatest hits album. SS does a couple of solo records, including recording a song for a collection of music inspired by Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ.
Let me break down what you just said, because it took me a while to wrap my head around it. First of all, it was the third album to be released related to the movie The Passion of the the Christ. What this album was is a collection of different artists who were inspired by the suffering of Jesus, as depicted by renowned actor, director, anti-Semite Mel Gibson. They created original works based on the movie, based on the book, based on the life of Jesus, through the eyes of Lethal Weapon's Mel Gibson. And they released that as an album. This is a money grab, right?
Well, yeah, but technically so was the movie.
I never saw that movie.
I did.
Spoiler alert, he dies.
But Garrett, there's a little PS on the end of that. 3 days later, do you know what happens?
He rises.
That's right.
And he races Superman to heaven.
They end up getting back together with the original bassist in 2009 for a fourth album called Full Circle, and they want to record a fifth album, but they scrap it for what everyone describes as unclear reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion around exactly what it is, but I think that we can point to some major themes such as drug and alcohol abuse and mental illness.
Yes. It's also unclear if this is still a band. Scott Stapp seems to think it is just on hiatus, but his guitarist really hates him, so I think it's unlikely we'll ever get that fifth studio album the world's clamoring for. So now let's do something a little different. Let's go through the history from a mental illness standpoint, because in the background of this whole thing is another story of Scott Stapp, who is just a good old-fashioned crazy person.
Right. It's well documented, and Mr. Stapp is even happy to discuss it pretty openly, as long as you're Oprah or Dr. Oz or somebody that'll write a check. He suffers from a healthy dose of the old mental illness, and we're not here to make fun of that. Happens to the best of us. It's happening to one or both of us as we speak. We just choose to ignore that.
I assume it will end better for us.
Maybe. I don't know. We can now kind of go back and take a look at these things with a better understanding of what may have truly been happening at some of these key junctures.
In 1999, he recorded a sex tape of him and Kid Rock with some ladies on a tour bus. That came out in 2006, and his excuse for it was, I don't think oral sex counts as sex.
It's a hell of a defense.
Yes.
I'm sad to say I think it ruined the friendship of him and Kid Rock. They have not spoken since.
Well, they haven't spoken since the video came out. They were still good friends after they participated in this together.
Well, yeah, that's a real bonding experience, I assume.
In 2003, he, by himself, drinks a full bottle of Jack Daniels and decides it's time to kill himself. But then he decides that instead of killing himself, I mean, he's already got his gun out. He went and got that from the safe. You're not just going to put it back in the safe. So he decides, wouldn't it be fun to just shoot up his house a bunch? So he fires an MP5 around his house and then patches it up.
The part of that story that I find most interesting is not the considering suicide, but the fact that he then proceeded to what I assume is shoot at hallucinations. After he fires randomly into his own home, he's got to go get plaster, he's got to go get a trowel, and he's got to get some paint. That is the weirdest interaction with a Home Depot employee you have ever seen. The whole time he's just like, are you Creed? You're very drunk, brandishing a gun and weeping. Never meet your heroes.
There's a couple of arrests that follow this. In 2006, he gets arrested for public intoxication one day after his second wedding. 2007, he's charged with felony assault and domestic violence, although after apologizing to his wife, the charges are dropped. In 2012, there's a legitimate suicide attempt, and there's an amazing animated series called Drawn and Recorded that has a 3.5-minute episode that really opened my eyes as to what happened this day. He is at a Miami hotel and decides, presumably very drunk, that he's going to kill himself. And so he jumps off a balcony, but lands on a lower balcony. So he's kind of laying there, not having a good time. Rapist T.I. notices, I don't know exactly how he notices, the video made it seem like blood dripped from the balcony onto his head, but I don't think that's accurate.
I like to think that he jumped from his balcony onto T.I.'s balcony.
Well, according to the video, it seems like he flies up there with wings that apparently T.I. has, because T.I. is some sort of guardian angel. He's a lot of people's guardian angel, because in 2010, he was recording something, and on the news, he heard that some guy was was going to jump off a building. And so he ran and asked the police if he, T.I., previous felon, actor, rapist, could talk to him. And the police said, yeah, that sounds like something we're going to do today. And he did. And the guy's like, oh, I won't kill myself, T.I. My point is that T.I., aside from being an actor, a rapist, and a felon, is also a hero.
Why would the police be like, yeah, okay. I like to think that's somewhere in the handbook. If a negotiation cannot be reached and the jumper seems as though he is unable to be persuaded to come inside, seek T.I.
I think there's just a T.I. clause. If T.I. wants to help, T.I. gets to help.
Is that strictly in potential suicide scenarios, or is that across all law enforcement?
It's across all law enforcement. However, he never intervenes unless it's a suicide scenario.
Oh, so he specializes.
Right. But if he wants to, he is more than welcome to help however he wants.
However he sees fit.
That's right. 2014, his wife files for divorce, and SS posts a video on Facebook claiming that he's homeless and out of money. Around this time, he's also diagnosed with bipolar disorder because, obviously...
I don't think you watched the clip because you're leaving out something else he claimed, unless I'm getting ahead of myself. That he was working with the CIA, people were after him, and that he must take down President Obama.
Ooh.
I want to be real clear here. We are not saying that. We are saying Scott Stapp said that.
We are saying the CIA...
No, don't even say it, because the Secret Service definitely visited him shortly after he made these claims. So these are not jokes we're going to make on the show.
Fair enough.
We are strictly reporting the facts that at one point or another, Scott Stapp was so out of it that he claimed he must stop Obama. And it is unclear whether or not the CIA was assisting him or working against him. Quite a tangled web.
In 2017, there's another little incident whenever he was visited by Scott Weiland's ghost. He rents the same tour bus that former Stone Temple Pilots singer Scott Weiland died on. And apparently, Scott Weiland is doomed to forever haunt this tour bus because all of a sudden, he says, it was like Weiland was speaking to him from the grave, man. I remember being in the bathroom, looking in the mirror on the bus, and suddenly really feeling like I could hear him or feel him saying, dude, this could have been you. And this could be you if you continue down this path. Don't do what I did. Don't go down that road.
Wow.
We need to do something to help Scott Weiland cross over.
You thinking some sort of charter bus seance?
Could be.
I'm no expert. I'm not certain on how to help people cross over to the other side.
I think there's a television show.
There was. His name was John Edwards.
The presidential candidate.
This man was a charlatan who used cold reading techniques to make sad and stupid people feel as though they were talking to their dead relatives.
If you take out the dead relatives part, I think it still fits.
No, I didn't add any parts of adultery and then lying to Congress about it. Point is, both of them not great people. One of them can help you bring a soul from purgatory into their final resting place. Also, don't do it like I did it. This could have been you. To be fair, mental illness mixed with a drug and alcohol problem, mostly painkillers, is not quite the same as a 25-plus year addiction to heroin. We have seen Scott Weiland in concert. Still remains to this day one of the most infuriating and insulting live concert experiences I have ever been a party to. I've never seen somebody seemingly gloat about the fact that they can't remember their own lyrics and then telling us how sober he is. I'm just so happy that I finally got clean. You're not clean, sir. This is not necessarily related to the ghost portion of things, but what does Scott Stapp need with a tour bus in 2017?
Well, he had those solo tours.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he has released several solo albums.
I know the first solo album sold 1 million copies, which is just galling. America, get it together. Stop buying Scott Stapp albums. But I can't imagine in 2017 there's that much. I mean, he has to be going to like county fairs, openings of like Walgreens.
His musical career was mostly Large Scissors related.
Yeah.
There's this 99 to 2017 at least insanity by him, but he was always crazy.
You don't catch bipolar disorder. Granted, some of the symptoms don't necessarily present themselves until the late 20s or early 30s. That's been known to happen. And there is the interesting fact that this really took a turn south after that car accident.
I think that a good portion of this also has to do with his very religious upbringing. When he was discussing songwriting very early in his career, he was quoted as saying, "I feel a connection with God when I wrote the words, and then when I would sing the songs, I would feel the Holy Spirit."
If you feel the Holy Spirit, I'm sorry, we can't be friends.
He would also claim that a lot of his drug and alcohol use was due to his difficulty understanding the nature of God.
Blaming your drug addiction on Jesus is a bit of a stretch.
If you completely ignore the lyrics, because I have to say, I do hate the lyrics.
Yeah, these lyrics are really bad.
Sure, but musically, it's fairly proficient, if a little bit boring. If this came out in 1993, I don't think I would hate it from a musical standpoint. The problem is it's so derivative of 1991 to 1996 that if you look at it in the context of what was happening musically, it's clearly stealing from other things.
Nail on the head. One of my first thoughts when I listened to this album was, what type of music would you call this? And then it occurred to me, of course, and I did some Googling, looked at the dossier from the lab. This is what is called post-grunge.
Grunge theft.
Yeah, it is grunge theft, isn't it?
Theft grunge.
You're right, Tim. You could get together Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, Temple of the Dog. I'm forgetting a big one here.
Soundgarden, definitely.
Soundgarden. But you could get a class action suit of all of these early grunge bands and just sue the bejesus out of Creed.
Yeah.
Because they are stealing left, right, and center. They were just so damn close to being a band I should have really liked.
It sounds like Stone Temple Pilots, Eddie Vedder. There's also something Linkin Parkish about this whole thing.
This album lacks teeth.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that it?
Yeah.
It lacks an edge.
There's a lot of poorly thought out theology. It's terrible, but the worst part about it is that it thinks it's so deep.
It is almost as though somebody challenged him to write an entire album using nothing but fortune cookie fortunes.
I think there's actually something to that. Are you familiar with magnet poetry?
Talk us through it. I think so.
So this is where you have like a bunch of words or phrases that are put up on a refrigerator that you can kind of write messages. Some of it is very banal, went to the store, but some of it is poetry or sayings or stuff like that. There are numerous people on the internet that claim at least one of these songs was written based on the leftover stuff like that on his fridge. I can't confirm 100%. Brad, apparently his grandma died, so he wasn't here for a while. But
how many grandmas does that guy have?
I know. We need to see a goddamn
corpse. I want to see a corpse, Brad.
I was going to say a program for the funeral. Jesus.
Anyone can print a program.
If he's dishonest enough to make a fake program, maybe he's dishonest enough to get himself a corpse.
If you are willing to go out and fetch a corpse to get a couple days off from the lab, he's earned the days off.
I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
Creed.
Did you watch any interviews with Scott Stapp?
A couple, yes.
Yeah, and I did mainly for the sole purpose of trying to figure out what his speaking voice actually sounds like.
Not much like his singing voice.
No, the singing voice is definitely an affectation, but I want to give him a compliment. Scott Stapp is a genuinely gifted imitator.
Yes. If he wanted to be in a really good cover band, great. But Jimmy Fallon does an excellent Neil Young cover. He does an amazing impersonation of Neil Young. However, that ceases to be entertaining in any way whatsoever if he begins writing his own songs as Jimmy Fallon and singing them as Neil Young. And that's what we're looking at here. It's a cover band gone
rogue.
You're 100% right. They've gone rogue.
Is this a Christian band?
That is hotly debated. I think it is. At least Stapp wants to be a Christian band, but know that that's not going to sell as well. They're the heavy music, the post-grunge, the theft grunge, thunge of Christian bands.
We need to mention this because it applies to probably 8 of the songs on here, and I don't want to go through it every song.
Okay.
None of them seem to understand what the concept of a chorus is. Several of these songs have 3 different choruses.
Just call them verses or a bridge. The song structure is baffling between the various choruses and the incessant repetition. And folks, we're going to hit you with some hard numbers this week. We had to bring in some extra help for the boys at the lab this week, some real number crunchers.
So we didn't obviously listen to the deluxe edition of this, but that does include a cover of The Doors' Roadhouse Blues. Scott Stapp claims The Doors as his biggest vocal influence and his songwriting influence.
Because the dead commune with Scott Stapp, I hope that he ends up in like a haunted men's room and Jim Morrison just comes back and savagely beats him in a men's room stall. I have a feeling that Jim Morrison would be deeply offended by that sentiment. You ready to get into this?
Yeah.
Track number 1. Are you ready?
The intro to this sounds very much like Stone Temple Pilots' Pretty Penny, and then it morphs into kind of a combination of Sex Type Thing and Vaseline. This starts off with, "Hey, Mr. Seeker, hold on to this advice. If you keep seeking, you will find."
Well, to be fair, Tim, this is taken from Bible verse, apparently. This is from Matthew 7:7. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be open to you. I didn't really know they had doors back then. Just assumed it was more like an animal skin or a hole in the side of a hovel.
I don't think so. I think they had doors.
Probably not as you and I know them.
Well,
Full of hinges.
I don't know.
When did metallurgy come to play? Let's pause the mics. We'll do a little bit of research, find out when complicated metalwork entered modern humanity, and we'll just sort this whole thing out.
Okay.
And we're back. Yeah, turns out they had doors.
Also, not that interesting.
No, and the hinges were wooden.
I do have a new criteria for bad songs in addition to spelling.
Okay.
Counting. In this case, Countdown to Nothing.
Yeah, it was a Countdown to Nothing.
Yeah.
That might be the best title for this whole album. Creed, Countdown to Nothing.
Yeah. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I was shocked. He's literally just counting down from 10. The theft here is galling. To me, this song in particular sounds like, I assume you're familiar with the hit film Almost Famous.
Yes.
And it's about the rise of a real band, but in this case, for rights purposes, they use a fictitious band in the heyday of late 60s, early 70s rock music. When the grunge movie is made, this album and this song in particular sounds like a song that was written to sound like a grunge song of the era, but, isn't quite right because it was written by a group of writers somewhere rather than actually artists.
That makes sense. It's a song that was written to fit into the grunge movement, but 15 years after the grunge movement by people who are just studio musicians that have been hired to do this job.
Yeah, this is a fake song by a fake band about an era of music we all used to love.
Yes. This song really felt like it was taunting me the whole way through with this "Are You Ready" horseshit.
Tim, did you break your phone again? Do not fight songs.
I got an OtterBox this go around, and
That's good.
my phone is chipped but still works.
That's good. You got to stop fighting songs.
Yes. But
they're not taunting you.
This song is taunting me, man. The chorus of this song is, "Are you ready? Are you ready for what's to come?" And then "Are you ready?" is said a bunch more times. And no, I'm not. I don't want any of this. The only other thing for this song is the end ends with a genuinely impressive scream by Chris Cornell.
When you say by Chris Cornell, it is not Chris Cornell, Tim.
Oh.
It is a very talented impressionist. For the last time, Chris Cornell would not be found dead on this album.
Well, fair enough. Then again, I have to say he's a very good impressionist because he goes from sounding exactly like Eddie Vedder to sounding exactly like Chris Cornell on the very last line of this song, and he's got it down.
Here's something that we probably should have talked about in general thoughts. This will kind of break your brain. If you'd have met Scott Stapp in, let's say, 1995, you and him had the exact same taste in music.
Sure.
How misleading would that have been if you're like, man, I just met this guy, fucking Scott. He's really cool. We talked about music for like an hour. Great taste. Really liked the same shit I did. I'm going to his house. So he invited me over his house tonight. We're going to have dinner with him and his girlfriend or whatever. You get there and it's all just Jesus and mental illness.
That would
how
be
he talks to
amazing.
ghosts.
At that point, Scott Weiland was just hanging out in the corner, but later...
It is very rare that people get the gift, Tim, later in life, much like mental illness. This guy was talking to ghosts from day one.
Right, but before most of them were Holy Ghosts.
What is the Holy Ghost? I know the Father, I know the Son, But this Holy Spirit, it's elusive. It is also everywhere from what I've read. So technically we're all communing with it.
Yeah, it's confusing because if you're going to come up with a family structure to explain God in the first place, so there's the Father, the Son, you get that, right? That makes sense. Yep. You've got a father, you're the son. And then you know how like you've got that ghost? So this is like the ghost that hangs out with you and your dad, but it's God, so it's the Holy One.
Maybe it's like the family dog.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm just grasping at straws here. Like a ghost dog.
That sounds blasphemous.
Well, I don't know.
Probably best to steer away from this Christian talk altogether. I'm sure it won't come up again.
This is a rock band. Why would they be talking about Jesus?
Yes. Track number 2, What If? This is going to be the last time I say this.
I doubt it.
The first half of this sounds exactly like Stone Temple Pilots' Sex type thing. Second half of it sounds almost identical to Down on the Upside era Soundgarden.
I can't disagree with you at all. There is a bizarre new metal-ish solo.
It's Chinese democracy-like.
That's a weird sentiment, but I actually think I know what you mean. It's this bizarre hybrid kind of missing link situation where it doesn't necessarily fit into either camp. There's elements of both, and therefore it almost makes it more awkward than anything.
Yes, plus he's going to sing over a lot of it.
Well, yeah. The earliest part of the song reminded me of Paint It Black. I looked it up, and apparently it was meant to. Mr. Tremonti said it is actually inspired by Paint It Black and also somehow Zelda. I didn't pick up on the Zelda part.
See, that's weird, because I picked up on the Zelda, but not the Paint It Black.
Well, you are a lifelong Zelda fan.
The word is LARP?
I don't think that's related.
Yeah, I like to dress up like Zelda.
It's more of a live gamer.
Yeah.
We're a small group of people that don't really focus on playing the games. We just enjoy the costumes and camaraderie.
I do love a good costume.
That's obvious, Tim. You seem to almost theme yourself for every week.
I don't understand why you're not doing this.
I can see you struggled a little bit this week. You tried to make your hair a little longer and part it down the middle. It didn't really work. The extensions are good, but I can see where they're connected.
In all honesty, I'm just dressed exactly like I was in 9th grade. There's a button-down shirt, jeans, there's those shitty lace-up boots, got a necklace on, there's a wife beater under this.
Some sort of leather bracelet.
Look, the leather bracelet is timeless.
It's not.
This song is about how the media doesn't seem to like Scott Stapp all that much. I was unaware that that was a thing this early on in their career.
Yeah, I thought the majority of people had not gotten sick of them yet.
I can't imagine how this is a song about how the media doesn't like it, so I kind of turned it into they also have a Doug that he went to high school with and is now in some sort of one-sided Slipknot-esque war with.
Yeah, that makes sense. That seems to be a theme with a lot of the bands that we cover. They have enemies, Tim, that represent all of the hardships and teasing they had to endure their whole lives, and now they're making shitty music about it. So yeah, they totally have a Doug.
We get a lot of martyring and Jesus complex. Some lyrics. Feel I've been beaten down by the words of men who have no grounds. Can't sleep beneath the trees of wisdom when your axe has cut the roots that feed them. Forked tongues and bitter mouths can drive a man to bleed from the inside out.
Okay, top of my head, best I can tell you. He has severed himself from sources of real information and can no longer gain any insight into the world because he has closed himself off from it, and the media is calling him out on his bullshit.
Holy shit, maybe Scott Stapp can see the future too.
Well, Tim, I can bear Scott Stapp being able to communicate with the other side. Sure, can he host an exorcism and talk to previous dead rock stars and potentially your grandmother?
We don't know that he can just do this. It might only be other people named Scott.
That's entirely possible. He could be what is the word I want to use here? What is somebody that channels
a medium?
A medium. So a credium. He's definitely a credium. Now, whether or not it's only Scott-specific ghosts, we're not sure yet. But the idea that he's also psychic seems unlikely. You're saying that he's written these lyrics knowing that people are going to get angry at him for spouting these 9th grade revelations about the nature of humanity and life, right?
Absolutely not. Whenever you gave a description for what he was talking about, the exact person you are talking about is Donald Trump.
Oh. Now that is often how visions of the future manifest. from what I understand. So that's very possible, Tim. Now, that's the issue with the modern day psychic. They don't necessarily know what they're being told. They're merely vessels. You've got to comb through it all. You have to have the event happen to understand the gravity of what the warning was.
Let me read you the chorus. What if you did? What if you lied? What if I avenge? What if an eye for an eye? And I gotta stop it there and say, Garrett, what if an eye for an eye?
Are we talking about my eyes?
Yes.
Ah, damn it. I was really hoping for a strong no. I need my eyes.
Okay.
And why are you taking them?
I'm not taking them. They will be taken. Let me continue with the chorus. Okay. What if an eye for an eye? What if your words could be judged like a crime? I think that last line is our near future.
Yeah, we say a lot of shit on here that you could definitely get sued for. You will be a co-defendant in that suit.
You know the Microsoft Word paperclip helper guy?
Clippy.
Yeah, Clippy. Listening to this, I just kept imagining Clippy popping up just being like, you seem to be trying to write a metaphor. You seem to be having some trouble. Would you like some help?
If Clippy was in the mix, and I don't know if he was, but I do believe at some point he may have popped up and said, you seem to have written what if 53 times.
Yeah.
Would you like to use a different set of words? That's a real number, folks.
It
53.
Sure is. This week, Genius Lyrics was of very little help. We had to use almost entirely other sources. I did take a look at songmeanings.com to see what idiots of the internet were saying about this, and I wrote down a couple. Somebody whose screen name is MyOwnPrison333 writes, this song sure is about the media. The teeny boppers have ruined media so much that Scott was encouraged to write a song about it. And what a vengeful and cynical song it is. There are a couple of teeny bopping MTV lovers in my neighborhood, and when I see them going by, I blast this song and they look at each other and just figure I'm being annoying because they couldn't figure out what this song meant for their lives.
I'm very confused by the use of the word teeny bopper.
Mr. Mojo Ryzen 5552 writes, the lyric, what if your words could be judged like a crime? I think this reflects how we truly don't have freedom of speech.
I don't think that guy knows what freedom of speech means. You can literally say whatever you want. We have pushed the boundaries of what is socially acceptable to say in a very public forum.
Yes, we have pushed the boundaries of what counts as libel. Slander?
It's unclear. One's written, one's not. The point is, we're sorry.
Track number 3, Beautiful. There are 17 lines in this song, and it comes in at 5 minutes and 18 seconds.
Sure does, friend.
How dare they?
That's the correct reaction. Of all of the songs on this album, of all of them, this is the one, if I'm in this band, I am lobbying to have removed.
Yeah. This is the one that there are 3 unique choruses that just get repeated over and over again. Not a chorus.
It's a unique approach to choruses. Chorusi? Kurosawa? To repeat them does imply they're a chorus, but to have so many different choruses implies that they're verses?
I have absolutely no idea what this song is about.
I know what it's about. It's always hard to know whether or not these are true facts, but the word on the street is that this song in particular is about an ex-girlfriend of Mr. Stapp. He thought everything was going swimmingly, which is a level of delusion that I think he probably carried with him for multiple years and may to this very day. Tough to say. They went out to a local bar. They were having a couple of drinks when suddenly he looks over and sees his loving girlfriend making out with another gentleman at the bar. He obviously confronts her and asks, she ignores him before eventually just leaving with him and never speaking to him again.
That is the way that you get out of Scott Stapp's life. Clean break.
A lot of witnesses.
In that context, this song has some pretty upsetting lyrics. Beautiful is empty. Beautiful is free. Beautiful loves no one. Beautiful stripped me.
Yes.
That's chorus 1. But
it's clear what he's trying to say is that she's a callous, unloving husk of a woman that has stripped him of his ability to love another.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and she's smoking hot.
He does seem to, at some point, realize he is a deluded person in this song, though.
Well, it's hard to deny it when you're watching the woman that you share an apartment with basically bang another dude on the bar stool next to you.
Some guys are into that.
Oh, sure. Some guys are definitely into that. Now, Tim, there's something special about this particular song, as I'm sure you know. In analyzing these lyrics, I couldn't help but notice some similarities to a great author you and I are good friends with, by the name of me at age 16. For the song Beautiful, written by Scott Stapp, I have a poetry selection from my book of poems that I wrote when I was 16 years old, entitled Beautiful. Tim read a lovely selection from Beautiful by Scott Stapp. Now I'm going to read for you folks, and this is rare because I never titled them. Beautiful by Garrett Harvey, age 16, maybe age 17. So much meaning for only one word. Beauty is not what she wears or how she looks. It's the look in her eyes as she says hello, the subtle curl of her lip as she begins to smile. Beauty is her heart, her soul, her compassion, and caring. Beauty is truth, and truth is beauty, and she is truly beautiful.
I want to say this. I need you to really hear me. You, Garrett Harvey.
Yes.
Then and now, disgust me. That poetry writing sad boy is still very much inside you. You will never rid yourself completely of the boy that wrote Beautiful. He's always going to be there, Garrett.
My sensitive soul has been buried beneath giant boulders of disappointment and rejection. So he'll never come out. He's trapped. He's like those boys in that Thai cave. Elon Musk can't build a sub big enough to get him out.
At the very least, your poetry is as good as the song selection.
Track number 4, Say I.
I don't know what human clay is.
That was my first question. It sounds gross.
Yeah,
But I can tell you what I think it is.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it poop?
It's not. Well, okay. I'll replace human clay in these lyrics with the word poop for you. The dust has finally settled on a field of poop.
Okay, so far so good.
Just enough light has shone through to tell the night from the day. We are incomplete and hollow, for our Maker has gone away. He's been abandoned by his Holy Spirit, Holy Ghost, some other Scots that died before this and was visiting him nightly.
Boy, I really wish I knew what the Holy Ghost was. I feel like I would understand Creed so much better.
He does some Saint Anger era Metallica-ing on this song, too.
I think I know what you're talking about. I called it slam poetry. Frantic, faction focus, the world breeds and outforms this misconception we call man, but I don't know him because he lies. They lie.
That does fit pretty well. He does slam poetry in James Hetfield's voice. Is that fair?
Yes, but it's important to say, he is speaking. The song continues.
Yes.
And he's slam poetrying under it.
Song number 5, Wrong Way. Sadly not a Sublime cover. I think I would have preferred that.
I would have loved that. Done in the Creed style?
Done in the Pearl Jam style.
Well, obviously, it goes without saying.
The intro to this sounded a lot like, it's a Limp Bizkit song, but it's not one from our album. It's the theme from Mission Impossible 2.
Oh my god, I know exactly what you're talking about right now. Yes, you're 100% right. That's actually a really good call. I also would have said that it is reminiscent of a Black Angels opening.
But the Black Angels uses it to build to something.
No, in this case, it's a countdown to nothing.
I wasn't able to confirm this with Scott Stapp himself, but this is the song that multiple places on the internet, they claim it's culled together from basically lyrics of other songs that just didn't fit on those other songs. There's a lot of lines that start with what makes, that he decided basically that could be its own song.
I have a different theory. I read this theory as well, and it could definitely be the case. Analyzing these lyrics, it reminded me of a story I once heard. I'll read the lyrics first. What makes you touch? What makes you feel? What makes you unclean? Somebody told me the wrong way. So, much to your point, what the fuck is that about, right? However, I assume you, like millions of other gentlemen of a certain age, first discovered pornography in the woods.
Well, it was the desert, but yes.
Oh my god.
There were no woods.
That's right. Weird. Yeah, I guess you would have had to have found it in the desert. But it's still, the tried and true location of pornography remains true, out in the middle of nowhere for some apparent reason.
Sure.
Right. So I found mine in the woods near my house. You found it in the middle of the desert near your house. But for whatever reason, folks, if you don't know what we're talking about, creepos in the 80s and 90s were just jerking off in the woods.
The difference being that, in my case, you could be seen for like 10 miles around.
Yeah, and you're risking a dangerous sunburn. That's not where you want melanoma to form. Anyway. And then they would leave the magazine, and unsuspecting boys playing various games in the woods would stumble upon them. Happened with me, happened with a number of my friends, and I'm happy to hear it happen with you too, Tim. I think that's what this song might be about, except, and this is the story that I'd once heard, this guy, same exact scenario, only the first pornography he ever saw was super weird. And so maybe Stapp, like, stumbled onto, you know, your standard pornography magazine, but it had, like, foot stuff. Because he starts out with, like, what makes you touch, what makes you feel. All right, we'll get that. Then he switches gears immediately to what makes you unclean. Somebody told me the wrong way. So he's aroused because there's naked bits, but then he's also, like, deeply ashamed because they're doing it wrong.
Well, he doesn't know that. In the future,
Well, no, this is all in retrospect, Tim.
Oh, true.
I would hope by this age, when he's written wrong way, he's stumbled onto either at least some additional pornography, which he could purchase at any gas station, or perhaps even had a sexual experience or two.
Well, that'd be cool for him. Yeah. Hope he has had a sexual experience by 99. That would be good.
Oh, well, hold on. I can't let this go. You seem to be entertaining the possibility that he hadn't.
I would have never thought about it until you phrased it that
he
way.
would have been like 25 at that point.
Fred Durst is my response to that.
Yeah, touche. Point taken. He might have been an adult grown man virgin. And maybe he was scared of having a physical relationship because he wanted to bring feet into the mix.
Well,
that's what makes him unclean.
Maybe he just wasn't into feet, but he thought that that was like a required part.
You know what? That's even better. So he stumbles onto it. He likes the naked part. That seems pretty cool. But then what's all this feet doing in here?
Yeah, it is awkward at your first sexual experience whenever you stop halfway through you like to call it the warm-up part, and are just like, hey, I know everyone loves feet. Can we, for the first time, can we not use feet too much? And then maybe
we can. What I'm into.
We can work it in later. Like I'll adjust. I don't know.
Yeah, but it really makes it hard for me to get there. If the feet are in the mix, and then he just screams, "Somebody told me the wrong way."
Let me read some more lyrics and tell me if this fits your theory. What makes you cry? What makes our youth...
Oh, no!
What makes our youth run from the thought that we might die? What makes you bleed?
Oh, no.
What if I died?
Oh, what makes you cry? Feet.
What makes you bleed?
Feet. There's no self-lubricating properties in feet, Tim.
Okay, now, Jesus Christ, let's move on. I can't.
Gross. Track 6. Faceless Man.
This song sounds like he wrote it after a bit too much Bible, a bit too much cocaine, and a bit too much Stephen King. Again I stand, Lord I stand, against the faceless man. I haven't read all of Stephen King's work, but I guarantee you there's a faceless man in there somewhere.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You have done battle with the faceless man, right?
With a faceless man. I can't guarantee it's the same faceless man that SS has dealt with in his naked toddler days.
I've always been super confused and terrified to ask, but did he not have a face, or is he faceless in your memories?
It's definitely not like he once had a face and now no longer has a face. Like,
are you implying that he was born without a face?
It's not a situation where a man has like a scab instead of a face.
Oh God, why would it be a scab?
I don't know.
Why couldn't it at least just be like healed?
Well, Garrett, that faceless man gets out there and mixes it up. He's not going to wait for healing. It doesn't matter because that's not what happened. I think it's not a situation where a man lost his face. It's a situation where a man never had a face to begin with.
Faceless from birth.
Faceless from birth, yes.
Better name for this song.
This has other biblical quotes,
allusions?
I guess. Yeah, well, I think they're actually just quotes. His yoke is easy and his burden is light. That's Matthew 11:30.
I hope you didn't have to look that up.
No.
Oh,
Christian high
school.
school.
I thought that this song was about that time he fought his reflection in a pond. Now I saw a face on the water. It looked humble but willing to fight. I saw the will of a warrior, and as you said, his yoke is easy and his burden is light.
If he saw his own face in a pond, I cannot imagine that he would use the word humble to describe what that face looked like.
Oh, I think that egomaniacal maniacs often refer to themselves as humble. Doesn't mean they are.
Now, let me ask you this. In light of this faceless man or his own reflection that doesn't have a face for some reason, I'll say I choose to live for always. So won't you come inside and never go away? What does that mean to you?
I don't know. I suspect that it was sunny out, and the reflection of the water made it look as though the head was faceless.
We're not talking about facelessness anymore. We've moved past facelessness.
I haven't.
Yeah, that's clear. He just chooses to live for always?
I don't know what that means, Tim. I
Yeah.
honestly can't tell you.
Okay.
This is a song about a need of sunglasses.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter because it's a song essentially about nothing.
We've already afforded it more attention than it ever deserved.
Track number 7, Never Die. The first verse of this has some very creepy lines in it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if you came to the same conclusions I did.
Hands on a window pane, watching some children laugh and play. They're running in circles with candy canes and French braids. I kept picturing him at a playground and one of the parents coming up to him and just being like, "Oh, hey, which kid is yours?" And he's just like, what do you mean?
None of them, friend.
That's right. I'm just here admiring their youth.
The lines that I focused on. So let the children play inside your heart always, and death you will defy, because your youth will never die. If you drink the water, your youth will never fade. I won't let go of that youthful soul, despite Tim. This man is, I'm just going to say it, I think he's eating children to stay youthful.
He's definitely doing something to steal their youth. He's a soul sucker.
He's a youth sucker. Ooh. Yeah, let's come up with something different.
Youth eater? It's better than youth sucker.
It is. I mean, he's a child eater.
You know what? That's somehow the best.
Yeah.
What we've established, Scott Stapp murders, then eats, or possibly eats while alive, children in an attempt to stay young.
I don't want to put this on the shoulders of Scott Stapp. We have established that he communes with the dead. Tim, when you play in those waters, you open yourself up to the opportunity of being possessed by a demon.
Oh, so you think this is some other past
Entity?
Scott?
Well, again, you're really focusing on the fact that he can only commune with previously dead Scotts.
I just think it's a weird coincidence. The one person he's mentioned communing with was also named Scott.
It is a little weird. I'm willing to accept that he can talk to other dead people besides people named Scott. And if that's true, then he could have very well have been possessed by a child eater.
Is it possible that Stephen King's most recent book, The Outsider, was written about Scott Stapp?
I certainly hope not. Boy, you know what? We really are outlining the plot to that book, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's a good book. You ought to read it, folks. But I don't love Child Eater.
I don't love Child Eater, the Garrett Harvey story.
I mean, at least I'm coming down on the right side of history there.
Or how about this? I ... love Child Eater, the Garrett Harvey story.
Well, no, that seems intentionally vague.
It's a little disingenuous, but I think it gets the message across.
I think that this song sounded a great deal like if Alice in Chains had created a supergroup with the band Live.
Yes. Part of it also kind of reminded me of that first Silverchair album. That may be because there's a bunch of talk about drinking water, and that album also had that weirdly, but I think it sounds like it as well.
Yeah, and in this song, they're talking about child water. Hey, I'm just reporting the facts here.
Yeah, okay. I tried to determine, was this written in the manic upswing or the depressive fall
down
of his bipolar disorder, and I think this was a manic upswing. I won't let go of that youthful soul. Despite body and mind, my youth will never die. Now, again, he might have to murder children to make this happen, but he's still very positive.
Yeah, I would have voted Manic Upswing as well. Boy, I wish we'd have done that on every song. I would have liked to have taken the temperature on each one, Manic Upswing or Depressive Downswing. I hate this album too much to go back and do it, so.
Track number 8, With Arms Wide Open.
How many terrible weddings do you think this has been played at?
Weddings, funerals. It really fits all piss poor occasion.
if you're looking for some canned, sappy music.
Oh yeah, this and that Green Day song.
Oh yeah, man, that song came out damn near the year I graduated high school. I can't tell you how many fucking assemblies and slideshows I had to sit through for fucking Time of Your Life.
So this song is about him finding out, I guess, that his wife or girlfriend or whatever is pregnant. One of the lyrics in here, if I had just one wish, only one demand, I hope he's not like me. When I heard that...
I concur.
Yeah, me too. But whenever I heard that, the only thing I could think of... Do you remember that scene in Forrest Gump whenever he finds out he has a kid and he asks, is he smart or...
Right.
I hope that what was running through his mind, like he honestly stepped back, appraised the situation, and was just like, God, I hope I didn't make another Scott Stapp. Ultimately, I don't really know what that line means because the full stanza or whatever here, I hope he's not like me. I hope he understands that he can take his life and hold it by the hand. No idea what that means.
No, granted, nobody here wants to hang out with Scott Stapp, but by all accounts, he did pretty good in the life game, except for at the end there where he got super crazy and addicted to drugs and alcohol. But before that, millions of dollars, world-renowned musician. Weirdly, I would hope my kid would be just like me.
Is it possible that all the drugs and alcohol were just an attempt to tamp down all those Scott ghosts that were haunting him?
Oh, so he could drown out the voices?
Yeah.
Boy, I didn't even think of that. That's entirely possible.
He's having a conversation with you, and just in the background at all times, Scott Joplin and Scott Caan are just yammering on as he can't even concentrate on what the fuck he's saying.
I couldn't help but notice a couple things there. One, everyone was named Scott.
Yes.
And two, more importantly, Scott Caan's not dead.
He's dead to me, and he knows why.
You are not the first person on this show to have been wronged by Scott Caan. I can believe it.
Yeah. You know, that is the one time I will take Brad's side. Brad did not deserve to have his identity stolen by Scott Caan.
Opened all those credit cards. Why do you need multiple Netflix accounts?
Well, if you're not paying for them, because I too have multiple Netflix accounts. I've got the one that whenever people come over, that's the one they see. It's got highbrow stuff selected. It is well curated to make me look like I'm not an idiot.
I mean, I've been saying this for years. Netflix needs an incognito mode.
Absolutely. I've got that other account that's just, it's all friends and documentaries about serial killers and...
and cartoons.
Yeah, there's a lot of cartoons. I'm going to say, I watch more Bob's Burgers than I care to admit.
You know you can open up a separate profile, right?
They should have told me that before accepting more money from me.
I don't think that is their responsibility.
Okay, back to this song.
I wanted to ask you, because I'm not the most experienced prayer. I close my eyes, begin to pray, then tears of joy stream down my face. Tim, have you ever prayed so hard you wept?
Yes.
Oh.
I've only prayed so hard I wept. I am an amazing prayer.
All of your prayers end in tears?
Yeah. It's a very powerful experience, but here's the thing. I have got that guy wrapped around my little finger.
You're manipulating Jesus for your own will?
That's right.
He's going to hear about this.
Nah, he doesn't listen to the show.
Man, I thought I saw a small dip in the numbers. I assume he accounts for more than just one, because he's everywhere. What's interesting is that I proffered when I first heard this that he might be talking to God. But now that we understand that he's talking to dead people, maybe that's why he's crying. He thinks he's talking to God, but in reality, it could just be old, like, saloon owners and ex-heroin addicts / musicians.
All named Scott.
Tim, again, they don't have to be named Scott, I don't think. It's a very small sample size.
That's true. But it seems like a pretty amazing coincidence.
Amazing? You call it amazing?
I am amazed by it, yes. This song won a Grammy in 2001 for Best Rock Song. Now, the Grammys are supposed to be the musical equivalent of the Oscars, right?
Right.
And
well, Tim, I have pointed this out week after week. The Grammys are nonsense. They mean nothing.
That's true. Do you know who else was on that list that lost to With Arms Wide Open?
I do not.
Three Doors Down's Kryptonite, Lenny Kravitz Again, Matchbox 20 Bent, and here's the real sad one, Red Hot Chili Peppers Californication.
Yeah, that is weird. I can't really understand that.
Thankfully, it's their one and only Grammy to date.
This song did lead me towards something that does exist, that I think if you and I ever need to force ourselves to end the podcast but can't bring ourselves to do it, I have found the grenade on which we may jump. It is a 3-disc retrospective of Creed
Oh, God.
called With Arms Wide Open.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, 3 discs. We should really move on.
Okay.
Track number 9, Higher. I have to ask you a question, and I want you to take this question as seriously as any question I've ever asked you, okay?
Sure.
This is difficult for me to say. It has to be said. Can you take me higher?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah, I'll do
That's
that.
fantastic to hear.
I will...
To a place where blind men see.
Yeah, Garrett, I promise I will get you there.
And it'll be filled with blind men.
Yes.
Just groping.
Yeah, they're all going to want to feel your face to find out what you look like. Listeners, if you ever meet Garrett in real life, he is the sort of person that loves people touching his face. He loves is it face off? He loves people to just run their hands down the front of his face. That's how he knows you care. So please do that.
Well, first of all, don't. Above all else. Second of all, you are in fact referencing the face-off face waterfall. You drag the fingers of your hand down the face of an unsuspecting person in a sign of affection. Do not do that to me. That's disgusting.
I mean, wash your hands first. I'm not saying you want to get like a bunch of nacho cheese in Garrett's beard, but run your hands down his face to find out what he looks like.
Why is there nacho cheese on their hands?
I assume our fans are Slipknot fans. Ooh, we should get a crow in a jar.
I don't think so.
So the inspiration for
Let's
this
get a
song,
giraffe. That's a big jar.
Yeah. If it's something that big, we could just cut it in half. We put it in 2 separate containers. You keep one at your house. I keep one at my house.
What's in that jar, friend? Bottom half of a giraffe.
Yeah, I drew the short straw, and I had to take the bottom half, not that sweet neck.
Yeah, my half is all neck. You can have all 4 legs, though. Can I taste it? I like to think that nobody's heard the Slipknot episode, and they're just like, what are they talking about? Catch up on your episodes, folks. They all tie together into one grand theory.
Yes.
This song is about lucid dreaming, apparently.
Yes. Scott Stapp said that he read a book about Hindu monks, and he thought it would help him to squelch a recurring nightmare. He was running down a highway, closely pursued by a man with a gun. He turns left and hides behind a pillar under a freeway, but he gets shot anyway. And he said that once he learned how to lucid dream, he was able to alter the nightmare, so he took a right instead of a left, and then he never had the dream again.
I always assumed this song was about Caan.
I always assumed it was about religion. Can you take me higher to a place where blind men see? Can you take me higher to a place with golden streets? It kind of sounds like he wants someone to kill him.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe
is this song asking Jesus to take his life?
He doesn't have the courage to follow through on his suicide plans. However, he wants to do some sort of suicide by cop scenario where he forces somebody else's hand.
Could be. Could be a bandmate. Maybe that's why he was such a dick to them.
So you're saying that Axl Rose, too, was just kind of trying to get Slash to kill him? That's why he...
No. Axl Rose is just a renowned dickhead with personality issues. We all, of course, remember this song not from its endless radio play, but from the hit soundtrack from the movie The Skull, starring Joshua Jackson.
I love that guy. I wish he was in more movies.
I can't say that I followed his career too much past when he played Charlie in the Mighty Ducks series, but I will say that I enjoyed every one of those films, each one more than the last.
I think he would have a great turn if he was able to star on, say, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, for example.
Now, would he be playing himself or just against type?
I think both. I think he plays himself, but against type. He's the asshole version of himself.
That wouldn't be bad. Now, I never watched the television show Fringe, which seemed like sort of a millennial X-Files. Mm-hmm. Tough to say
it was.
Exactly.
No, that's basically it. Bunch of pseudoscience. It was pretty good. No one knows if it was
unaware
good.
that you were such a Fringe head, Tim.
Yeah, it's my bones.
Tim, I don't know how many different ways I can tell you. I do not, have not, will not watch Bones.
I think you just admit that you like Bones. It's not that bad.
I don't even know what it is.
It's about a guy.
I don't care. I don't care what Bones is. Why are you telling me what Bones is about? Can you take me higher? I'm just going to keep doing it if you keep talking about Bones.
My point is, it's okay that you like Bones. I won't mention it again. I want to say I accept you even if you like the television show, the hit television show Bones. Now,
I appreciate your acceptance, but I do not watch Bones.
We'll get you there. The song Higher was rated number 95 on VH1's 100 Greatest Rock Songs in 2009.
I appreciate that it's near the end, but it does not belong on this list. This might be the number one reason I may come to hate this album. I had just last Saturday, before we ticked over into this week, finally gotten Higher out of my head. It took 19 years, but I finally got it out. But damned if the very next day I'm listening to this album, and it is in there this might be the song I hear before I die. In my head. I won't request it. It haunts me, Tim.
Okay.
Before we move on, I still want to make the case that this is about Caan. With the lines, up high, I feel like I'm alive for the very first time. Clearly the first time he's done Caan. Set up high, I'm strong enough to take these dreams and make them mine. Now granted, it could be about the lucid dreaming, but I don't know if you've ever been cornered by somebody on Caan, but they have a lot of dreams and a lot of plans.
Yeah.
And they feel like they're real doable.
Got a 5-year plan. It's going to involve you, Garrett. We're going to get it done. We're going to get it there. I don't have everything quite fleshed out just yet, but all the pieces are there, Garrett. They're all in my head. I've got, so year one, you're going to like year one, Garrett. Okay. But you know what? You're not going to like it as good as year two. Year two is the best. That's the one we're really going to enjoy the most. Now, the 5-year plan doesn't have to end with what?
Please stop. Yes, exactly like that. Excellently demonstrated. I almost had to hit you with another verse from this song just to snap you out of it. You didn't need to do cocaine to do that. I appreciate your dedication, but I feel as though the rest of the show may be affected by it. So, folks,
we strive for authenticity here. That's the most important thing.
It's true. More important than anything else, authenticity. While we're on the topic of lucid dreaming, and it's debatable as to whether or not we are, as I recall, you dream mostly about cowboys, is it?
Yes.
Have you found yourself capable of taking the proverbial reins and controlling...
I have to admit, those cowboys, from the moment I fall asleep to the moment I wake up, those cowboys are in charge.
They're running roughshod over you from start to finish.
No, that makes it sound seedy. My point is, for 8 hours a day, I give control of my brain over to cowboys. And I think we all should from time to time.
That's a weird recommendation. Not all of us are nearly as enthusiastic about cowboys as you are. I know you find that hard to believe.
Cannot imagine why somebody would not have enthusiasm for cowboys. The chaps alone, man.
Okay, well, it's weird you started there.
That's where I finished.
We don't have time to get into this, Tim. Is there anything else you want to talk about with this terrible song?
Only that I suggest everyone watch the music video. You get a lot of slow-mo, very 90s slow-mo 360 camera. You get Scott Stapp with more Jesus poses, more wife beaters, more leather pants. And Scott Stapp, in a moment of self-awareness, has looked back on this video and said, "God, those pants, what was I thinking?"
You know what? That's growth. I'll give him that.
Good for him.
All right. Track number 10, Wash Away Those Years.
So out of nowhere, on this album of inspirational theft, we get a song that's very obviously about somebody who's been raped.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say sexual abuse.
Well, okay.
I mean, it's not better. It's a little less sharp of a dagger for the show than the old R word. But it is jarring to say, as jarring as what Tim just said is. It's that jarring on the album. We're all having a good time. We're singing along to Higher, thinking about golden streets and rooms filled with blind men.
All touching your face like you like.
Well, at least it's just the face. And Tim's thinking about cowboys and how to control them in his dreams.
I don't even want to control them.
You just want to let them do whatever it is they want to do, and you're just along for the ride.
I am visiting their world. It would be arrogant of me to think that I should be in charge.
That's true. And we land in this pile of sadness. Believe it or not, Tim, I had a difficult time writing jokes about a song that focuses mainly on sexual abuse and recovery.
I have a few. Okay. The second verse has the line, "My anger's violent, but still I'm silent." That's a Rage Against the Machine lyric, right?
Yes.
There's also the lines, in life there are many quotients, and I hope to find the mean.
I'm glad you brought this up.
Did you write any of your poetry whenever you were in high school in math class?
I did not.
Okay.
They are suspiciously devoid of mathematical terminology. So let's break it down. Read it one more time.
In life there are many quotients, and I hope to find the mean.
Okay. In life, there are many quotients. There are many results that are created from the division of one thing by another. Arguable that could be a thing. There are scenarios in which you find yourself, let's say, alone as you are divided from another loved one through circumstances outside of yourself. You could find yourself being the quotient. Okay? I'm trying. However, that falls apart in that second sentence. I hope I find the mean? How does that have anything to do with anything?
How does it have anything to do with sexual assault?
Don't worry, he repeats the means 3 more times. Mm-hmm. I guess he's saying, I hope I find the reason for this division. Yeah, I hate this song.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's move on. Track number 11, the last official track on this album, Inside Us All.
This song has some good advice for you, Tim.
Okay.
If I may. There's a peace inside us all. Let it be your friend.
I don't know that that's a good thing for me.
I can't say that the opposite approach has served you well.
I have internalized an outward rage, and that has become my friend. And that is what now guides me.
An external rage?
Mm-hmm. You're a big part of that, don't worry.
Yeah, I do fuel your rage.
Yes. But that line continues on. There's a peace. Oh, there's a peace inside us all. Let it be. Oh, I said let it be. Let it be your friend. There's a peace inside us all, inside us all. Let it be repeated, I don't know, a lot. Let it be your friend. I suspect that this song was originally called Let It Be, and then somebody was like, you shouldn't do that.
You're going to call it Let It Be? Yeah, isn't it a good name? You don't see any reason why that might be an issue? No, it's a good name. Oh, right.
I like to think that he's just never heard the Beatles song.
That might explain a lot.
Yeah.
I got a 28 count on Let It Be.
Oh, good.
28 Let It Be's.
Sounds reasonable.
I'm pretty sure he owes the Beatles money. You cannot possibly say Let It Be that many times in a song and not owe them at least a little money.
This song was written on the depressed arc of his bipolar disorder, when shadows paint the scenes where spotlights used to fall, and I'm left wondering, is it really worth it at all?
Yep, he's super sad.
The beginning of this song sounds like their cover of a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover of Blink-182's Adam song.
Boy, that's a lot of covers covering. There's a line in here, Tim. Why can't we tear down these walls and show the scars we're covering? Are there any scars that I'm not aware of, Tim, that you're covering up? Would you like to show me your scars?
Yes, I would. Garrett, I'm going to ask you to turn and look away. Okay, so just face the wall. Okay, and I am ready. Turn back around now and look. Take it in. Yes, yes. Okay, turn around again.
Cover those
turn
up.
around again.
Cover those
turn
up.
around.
What did you do?
Garrett, turn around. Garrett. All right.
Oh, God.
And I got my leather pants back on.
Oh, your groin looks like the Joker's face.
Okay, I'm cutting that out. That's truly upsetting, and I can't allow people to hear it. No.
Tim, what did you do? Looks like you tried to hurdle razor wire, but didn't even come close.
I didn't even try to jump.
Oh, you know what? I brought that on myself, and I'm sorry. You were right to hide those scars.
Just for our listeners, I do not have horrible groin scars. That was a bit. Garrett, I need you to confirm the bitness of this.
Yeah, whatever, dude.
All right.
Yeah, let's move it along.
This did very, very, very well. This debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Top 200. It was only there for 2 weeks, but it spent 104 weeks on the Billboard chart overall. That's 2 years. You made fun of me the other day whenever I said something was 2 times platinum. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
This has been certified undecoupled platinum. You probably know this as hendecoupled platinum. It sold 11.7 million copies in the US by late 2014, but at this point it might be duodecoupled platinum.
Wow, 12 times platinum? That's amazing. It almost turns my whole opinion around on Scott Stapp. Credit where credit's due. That is a shit ton of money.
Yes. This has sold 20 million copies worldwide. It is,
Oh my God.
It is the 54th best-selling album of all time in the U.S. Since 1991, this is the 8th best-selling album ever. Beating it are only Metallica's Black Album, a Shania Twain album, Alanis Morissette, The Beatles' One, Backstreet Boys, the Bodyguard soundtrack, and Santana's Supernatural. It's quite a couple of decades the U.S. has had.
The Bodyguard soundtrack.
Whitney Houston is an angel.
She's got a powerful voice, I'll say that much.
Yes. And you love learning about how these albums do in other countries, and you'll be pleased to know that they also have terrible taste. This is sextuple platinum in Canada, quintuple platinum in Australia, sextuple platinum in New Zealand, quadruple platinum in Switzerland. Overall, Naked Toddler has sold 35 million albums worldwide. Now, if you'll remember from last week, that's 5 million less albums than Toby Keith. But here's the catch. They have approximately 20 fewer albums than he does.
Yeah, that is amazing. They were a band for like an hour and a half compared to him. Good work, Creed. They made all the money in the world. But that doesn't matter, Tim. What matters is what people thought of it. Do you have some reviews for us this week?
We do have one very special critic to talk about today.
Oh, do we?
We do. We have a Robert Christgau review for this, and to remind everyone, Robert Christgau is an insane person who has been reviewing music since the 60s. He has reviewed for numerous publications, and his reviews don't actually reflect the music or what's in the review. It's just a bunch of random nonsense, typically.
He goes to great pains to write a review and then provide a grade. But the two very rarely have anything to do with one another and almost exclusively have nothing to do with the music he's reviewing. For the game, Tim reads the review, I do my very best to guess what the grade was given, and that's how we play the Robert Christgau game.
In the year, rock died again. What should come storming back but metal? Yet these God-fearing grunge babies sound falser than rape-inciting Limp Bizkit, abuse-tripping Static X, Party Animals' Buck Cherry, or even World Dance Days of New. Because their songs address universals, they don't debase women, a plus, but their spirituality is as sodden as their sonics. So after years of Marilyn Manson lies, young bands seem to have found a psychic space where such themes open up to the musical imagination. By contrast, these guys are still in denial, bellowing regressive circumlocutions to drown out the truth inside. Which is what? Maybe lust.
Okay.
I think this might be the best Robert Christgau review I've ever seen.
On the surface, I gotta say it's not super positive. I mean, my gut is to go low, but I almost exclusively try to go the opposite of my instincts when dealing with a Christgau. Gonna go with my instincts. Oh, I know this is wrong. C+.
He gave it a C.
I'll take it.
On Amazon, there were 658 reviews overall, and I have to tell you I read every single one of them.
Good.
4.4 out of 5-star average, 76% 4 to 5 stars, 11% 1 star. So some reviews here. This is called Uplifting Mystical Rock. One word can describe this CD, and that is wow. I was simply blown away by this CD. With a sound like Led Zeppelin and poetry sounding like it came from Jim Morrison himself, Creed comes through on this sophomore effort with flying colors. The key tracks on the CD are What If, a great power song, then the beautifully arranged Beautiful, with rocking guitars as if they stole it from Hendrix's basement, the poetic Faceless Man, one of my favorite tracks, Never Die, and the two legendary songs, the inspirational Higher and the quasi-religious with Arms Wide Open. You can't get any better than this. With songs written like they were The Doors, Creed is probably the best rock band out there, and that's all I have to say about that.
That review was written by Scott Stapp. How else would you end up with so many references to the Doors when there is absolutely no reason for anyone to be conjuring the Doors when listening to this album? What else you got?
Here's one by Adam.
Oh, good to hear from Adam.
It's called Another Real Review for Human Clay. I know people think that the singer, Scott Stapp, has attempted to mimic Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam's baritone-like voice. But how can you tell a person to stop singing the way that they do, just because they are born with a certain voice? You can't change the way that you sound, unless you get your Adam's apple removed or something of that nature. Also,
oh my God.
Also, Scott Stapp doesn't really listen to Pearl Jam that much. They aren't even one of his favorite bands. Scott Stapp idolizes bands like The Doors and U2 for their great singer. So please Please don't rag on Creed for having similar vocals when, in fact, the music is completely different, because you can't change the voice you were given at birth. It is part of who you are. So buy this CD. It won't disappoint you, especially if you like Scott Stapp's voice.
I mean, you can change it clearly because he's doing an impression. Any others?
I've got one more. This is a one-sound band. The songs are basically dirges of various degrees of misery, with the singer moaning over a thick wall of sound layered down by slow but nimble drum playing. I think the drummer only knows that one beat, but he does do it to perfection. A thick bass and droning guitars that were probably overdubbed many times over. There is no great musicianship, no great guitar solos, and even though he can carry a tune, the singer could be picked out of a million different alternative metal outfits. So why give it 5 stars? Because this is simply some of the best damn songwriting I have ever heard since Nirvana hit the charts about 10 years ago. There is an intensity in this CD that will not allow you to push the stop button from the first song.
Oh my God, I have my finger hovering over the stop button. That really takes a turn.
Yeah. I've got one more. It's very short. It's called Creed Has Talent That I Didn't Fully Recognize at First by Emir. Now that I've heard this album a few times over, I must change my former opinion about this band. This band is as good as Days of the New, Megadeth, and other bands that I like, but it isn't as good as Queensryche. No band is as good as Queensryche.
Okay. You know what? I probably disagree. All right, Tim. Who is this for?
This is for non-discerning Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots fans. Given how well this sold, it might be for everyone.
It really might be. But it is so close to almost a band. Boy, they almost got it right.
No, I completely agree with that.
It's like watching a movie where the audio is poorly synced. Like at first you're like, no, is it me? But the longer you listen and you watch, you're just like, no, something's wrong here.
Yeah, it's Scott.
It's Scott Stapp. Scott Stapp is out of sync. It's because he's trying to drown out the voices.
He's a man haunted by several thousand years worth of Scots, all just hanging out in his house, screaming at him constantly.
Final thoughts here. They almost were a band that could have been good. And I will even say that it's 90% their fault, 10% radio's fault. This thing was on 18 times an hour. You could not escape the hits from this album. So even if you loved the band, just a week in, you're going to hate it.
It's one of those widely hated bands currently. I mean, obviously a lot of people love them, but it's publicly mocked. And I have to say, I think America's right.
America Pauly Shored this band.
Yes,
they
all
did. Loved it, and then without any sort of coordination whatsoever, like a musical, everybody all at once and together was just like, nah, fuck Creed. We're done.
They fooled America long enough to get theirs, but they couldn't fool them forever.
No, they really couldn't.
Garrett, do you hate this album?
I do.
Okay.
I don't have to think about it, but I want to be clear. The reason I hate this album is because I think they lacked the artistic integrity to take something that could have been good, or at least much better than this, and they took the easy way out. They went for the money.
I think the lyrics represent them going for what they really believe in. That's their art.
Oh, well, then in that case, that's why I hate it.
Right. I think the vocals and the music are affectations. It's them trying to be popular by copying these other bands.
Oh, okay.
Then, I think the lyrics are who they really are, and it is worse than copying Pearl Jam.
Tim, do you hate this album?
I do.
Okay. You hate it. I hate it. As usual, I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. Let us know what you think. I answered a ton of emails this last week. Sorry it took me so long. You can always reach out to us by going to hatepod.com, and you can click on the Contact Us link in the upper left-hand corner. If you don't want to do that, you're already in your email. Just email us at hatepodmail@gmail.com. We harp on it every week. The more reviews we can get on Facebook, more importantly on iTunes, the better we do, the more visible we are to folks that have never heard of the show. A lot of you have left some. We really appreciate it. Facebook.com/hatepod. Twitter, album HatePod, Instagram, just HatePod. Reach out. We respond to everybody, almost to a fault. Suggestions, thoughts, concerns. Have you talked to ghosts named Scott? We'd like to know. This has been Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey.
I'm the other, Tim Richardson.
The riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week. Now that week has passed, it's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.